Please come.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sirs.
Please.
Thank you, sir.
Ananya Reddy.
Yes, sir.
Very difficult to pronounce that name. What is the meaning of Ananya?
Sir, Ananya means unique. It also means exceptional.
How important is your name in your life?
Sir, it was given to me by my mother, so it has some kind of emotional attachment. Apart from that, sir, I believe my personality also reflects some connotation with my name. I am unique in the sense that the decisions I've taken in my life, for instance, I've chosen to go for humanities because I was purely interested in it, even though humanities is not viewed as some sort of thing that is pursued by students usually. That is one thing I believe, sir. And secondly, sir, I always believe in taking risks and also going for the unconventional, even though it may not stick to the norms. So in this sense, I'm unique. Apart from that, sir, I also try to be exceptional in whatever I do. I try to put my 100% into whatever I do. So these qualities, I believe, also has bearing on the meaning of my name.
You have been mentoring students.
Yes, sir.
Is that so?
Yes, sir.
What exactly you do while mentoring a student?
So it was during COVID times that I was introduced to mentoring, an initiative by Stanford University students in order to help South Asian students specifically during the COVID times was an initiative. So as part of that, I mentored students on navigating student life, especially that I wanted to help them in struggling with mental health issues since it was COVID times. And also I wanted to give them insights regarding various educational opportunities that are there. And also, sir, some students specifically asked very specific questions like whether should I go for the conventional choices or whether should I pursue education, which I'm passionate about. So I kind of try to deal with it in a very informal, personalized way based on my experiences as a student.
You can give advice, you can do mentoring. Will there be a difference between advising and mentoring?
Yes, sir. I do believe there is a difference. Sir, advice is basically just advising somebody about a course of action that they have to take. However, mentoring, I believe, is more personalized. One where we put ourselves in the shoes of the students that are asking and will give specific insights as well as in an emotionally intelligent way so that they will be able to better relate to what the mentor is saying.
Did you ever try to know the meaning of mentoring from the dictionary?
No, sir. I didn't see the word of the meaning of the word mentoring, but I've been involved in it, sir.
So you read Dan Brown fiction?
Yes.
What is so special about Dan Brown's writing style compared to the other authors? Because of which that became, you picked up specifically only Dan Brown. What was the reason?
Again, I was introduced to Dan Brown's reading. One friend of mine suggested to me during COVID times. And the uniqueness of Dan Brown's reading is that, ma'am, it's very engaging in the sense that the whole story runs in a 24-hour format. And also, ma'am, the themes that are covered in the Dan Brown's fiction are really interesting in the sense that the overall theme runs based on science versus religion. And then there are also elements of cryptography, elements of symbolism, elements of crime thrillers that are also there, which makes it even more interesting. And apart from that, ma'am, I believe there are some things that can be learned from Dan Brown's novels. First is howsoever difficult an investigation is, where the protagonist is basically an investigator. How does he take help from other members and how does he try to overcome the challenge at hand? This is something I've picked up. Howsoever difficult the situation may seem in the beginning, he will ultimately find a solution. And this is something I also...
Okay, if I want to start reading these Dan Brown books, can you suggest me one book, the first book that I have to pick up, and why do you feel that should be the book?
Ma'am, I would suggest Angels and Demons. Ma'am, firstly, because that is the first book I too read. And I felt it really interesting, ma'am, especially the bits about religion versus science. The narrative the whole book talks about is really interesting. Usually in our society, there is antagonism that is placed between religion and science, wherein religion and science are viewed as zero-sum game. However, ma'am, here the author tries to explore how religion and science, even though conflicting, can be reconciled after a point of time. And that I found really interesting because religion is something that is personal, whereas science is something that takes the society progress forward. So I found the theme really interesting, and as usually the cryptography and elements of it are also interesting, ma'am.
Okay, I feel that this banning of books is violating the freedom of speech and expression. Do you agree with me?
Absolutely, ma'am. I believe banning of books is violating freedom of speech and expression. Yes, ma'am. If the books are really offensive and they hurt the religious sentiments, since we live in a society, any offense to a particular religious community or a particular social group can invite some kind of restrictions on the book. However, absolute banning of the books without any proportionality and without putting it into proportionality test is something I do not agree with, and it goes against the spirit of constitutionalism.
But if you see the Dan Brown books in specific, it is critical to religion at places. So, do you mean that we'll have to ban the Dan Brown books in the West?
Ma'am, I do not think so, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, there have been controversies regarding the specific elements that were mentioned in the book. However, though there was no popular upsurge as such, saying that the novels are really offensive, and there have been no moments in the.
Were there any occasions when the books were banned in India where it hurt the sentiments or the religion? It could be a controversy. We are too. Don't you think that we are too critical about the books and banning the books in India?
Ma'am, I'm not aware of the particular instances if the books have been banned in India. But I believe, ma'am, any sort of banning or restriction on such freedom of speech and expression has to be based on putting the book to the proportionality test, because we have to balance various rights, the right of freedom of speech and expression and the right to religious sentiments of the community or social groups. So if this is the case, a proper proportionality test has to be put into test as devised by the Supreme Court also, and then censorship has to be first preferred, and then banning has to be taken as an incremental step if the book is extreme in the opinion of proportionality test.
Yeah, Ananya,
Yes.
you come from Mahbub Nagar.
Yes.
You are a geography student also.
Yes.
So, can you give me a brief description of the geographic profile of your district?
Yes, sir. Sir, Mahbub Nagar is one of the southernmost districts of Telangana, and it is divided into 4 districts post to the district's reorganization. And also, sir, it is situated in plateau kind of region. Apart from that, the soils there are predominantly red soil and black soil. Accordingly, the agriculture scenario in Mahbub Nagar is based on millets growing as well as horticultural crops.
What kind of crops are grown there?
So there is ragi, there is jowar that is grown. Apart from that, groundnut is also one popular crop that is grown. And horticulture crops like custard apple is also famous, sir.
Any other fruits?
So even mangoes are famous.
What kind of trees are present there?
Sir, I'm not exactly sure of the trees that are present.
So, what is the rainfall pattern?
Sir, rainfall pattern, Mahbub Nagar is slightly on the lower trend when seen in terms of rainfall, in the sense that there are drought-like conditions that are present because of less and varied rainfall that is there, sir.
Dryland cultivation happens there, or is it irrigated?
So dry land cultivation happens and irrigation also happens. Irrigation primarily because of well and tank irrigation.
Predominantly, what is the?
So predominantly, I'm not exactly sure, sir.
Okay. What are the rivers that flow in that area?
So there is Krishna that flows through Mahbub Nagar. So Tungabhadra too.
What are the tributaries of Tungabhadra?
Sir, not sure.
Okay, Ananya, can you name few tiger species in India? You have been a green nudger.
Yes, sir. So there is Royal Bengal tiger that is there in the Sundarbans, and even white tigers are also present. I believe they are in Odisha.
Is white tiger a subspecies of tiger in India?
Sir, I'm not sure of it.
There is something called fat tax. Fat tax. You have heard of it?
Yes, sir, I've heard of it.
What is it, Ananya?
So fat tax is basically a kind of nudge to disincentivize the consumption of fatty foods in India by taxing the fatty products, sir.
Is there such tax in India?
Sir, I'm not sure if there is exactly fat tax, but there are various Pygmalion taxes where there are various taxes to counter the negative externalities on people.
What are those taxes?
So there are taxes on consumption of tobacco and other such things, but I'm not sure if it is exactly on fat.
Is there any state in India which has imposed such tax?
Sir, I'm not exactly sure of it.
Did you hear the term circular economy?
Yes, sir, I did.
What is it?
So circular economy is basically to incentivize manner of consumption wherein there is no linear type of consumption. We use a product and we throw it. It's not like that. Circular economy is basically to reuse as well as refurbish the products that have already been used in order to encourage environmentally conscious behavior among the people.
Does it entail prevention of waste also?
Sir, I'm not sure if it entails prevention of waste, but it involves reusage of waste.
Just let me know. Recently, some changes have happened in Biodiversity Act.
Yes, sir.
So, what are the major changes that have taken place?
So the first change I can think of is that Ayush doctors and Ayush practitioners have been exempted from the clauses pertaining to Biodiversity Act wherein they have to take permission in order to carry out their research. That is first change I can think of.
It was said that they need not pay compensation to the local tribes and natives.
Yes, sir.
So, what is your opinion on that?
So India as a country has to balance definitely multiple objectives. Biodiversity is an objective and tribal conservation is another objective. However, sir, any such act which is brought has to be in consonance with tribal rights is what I believe, sir, because the tribals have been historically deprived.
Yeah,
And,
that is understood. So, don't you think that amendment is going against the tribal rights?
Sir, I believe it is going and adequate safeguards have to be put in place.
What kind of safeguards?
So firstly, we have to adhere to the international conventions whereby biopiracy is prevented so that the tribal people who own these resources are actually given some kind of sharing when these resources are exploited by multinational companies or even national entities. And secondly, sir, we have to encourage joint management whereby tribals are actively involved so that in the conservation of biodiversity so that they can derive benefits also and they can contribute to the environmental development.
Okay, and then one last question from my side. Recently, there was some proposal to change the manner of electing election commissioners. So there were allegations that would erode the very essentials of democracy.
Yes.
So what is your opinion on that?
So, it has been mandated in the constitution that the parliament has the authority to mention the way election commissioners have to be appointed. However, sir, we have seen that over the years, since 70 years, there has been no proposal that has been brought in by parliament in order to formalize the way election commissioners are instituted. And likewise, Supreme Court has come up and it has given guidelines to the parliament to nudge them to bring an act in order to elect election commissioners. And I believe, sir, this kind of judicial activism is needed because it doesn't erode separation of powers or democracy also, sir.
No, I'm not asking about that. I'm asking the manner of election commissioner. The panel constitutes predominantly from the
Yes, sir.
ruling dispensation.
Yes, sir. I got it.
So, what is your opinion on that?
Yes, sir.
Don't you think it would erode the neutrality or independence that is required in their appointment?
Yes, sir. I got it, sir. Sir, I believe, yes, sir. In the panel that was initially guided by the Supreme Court, Chief Justice of India was also there. However, the law that has been brought in doesn't include Chief Justice and Executive has the sole authority. So, in this sense, sir, I believe the guidelines that are given by Supreme Court have to be adhered to because any election commission is not just an institution.
So,
but
then
also,
you don't agree with the present proposal?
Yes, sir, I don't agree with it.
Thank you.
What is the limit prescribed for spending in elections, officially legal limit, for parliamentary elections, for bigger states how much, for smaller states how much?
Sir, I'm not sure of the exact numbers.
Okay. What about the regarding electoral bonds? Okay, Supreme Court recently given on verdict, no?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
So, Supreme Court has struck down the electoral bonds by citing various reasons, sir. First is it goes against the proportionality clause, whereby it states that it goes against the fundamental right to know of people. And secondly, sir, it distinguished between two kinds of electoral funding. The first is the funding that is done to contribute to political parties, and secondly, the funding that is done to ensure that there is some influence, sort of quid pro quo. So it has distinguished and stated that while the first case, wherein individual contributions are made in order to contribute to political parties, can be anonymous, the second case, wherein contributions are made in order to have some influence, need not be completely anonymous.
When government introduced the electoral bond scheme, what was the rationale?
So, firstly, government brought in order to increase anonymity of the donation so that the people who are donating are not harassed by various political parties. That is the first rationale, sir. And government also brought in it with a view to increase transparency of electoral funding and institutionalize a proper mechanism in order to receive funds.
Okay, these are the rationale behind this thing. Okay, now how this electoral bond scheme? This is the rationale. What you are saying? Then, in the view of Supreme Court, how this is a problem now? What is the problem?
So, firstly, sir, regarding transparency, Supreme Court has stated that there is no transparency in the sense that citizens are unable to know, they do not have the right to know under this electoral bonds, and they cannot know how corporates have contributed to the companies. And secondly, sir, it is also believed that there is some sort of, Supreme Court has also stated that there is some sort of benefit of doubt given to the government at the center, because if we see the SBI related data, we see that most of the donations have gone to this ruling party, and also the amount of anonymous donations in fact increased post introduction of electoral bonds. So these are some of the reasons.
Do you know what is one person one vote? Yes, sir. Then you link this thing in one person one vote.
So sir, I'm not sure, but I can take a guess if you permit me. So one person, one vote basically means that every person has a single vote and every person has only one kind of influence on the electoral process. However, if electoral bonds are there, then through donations, corporates can have a greater influence on political process, and thereby it can violate one person, one vote. Thank you, sir.
Regarding, now you suggest how the system can be improved.
So firstly, Supreme Court has given an exemplary solution. First is that electoral trust has to be set up so that any contributions that are made by political parties need not be completely anonymous, but they can be subjected to certain.
You can imagine already electoral trusts are there. Before electoral bond, yes, sir, there were trusts are there already. Now also it is there. Okay, so already it is existing. You tell me new thing.
So state funding of elections can be tried on a pilot basis. State funding of elections can be tried on a pilot basis, and then it can be implemented if successful. Because sir, even with state funding of elections, we may have some problems like small parties and non-serious candidates may apply, and it is a fiscal expenditure too. So by bringing out exact financial implications of such a move can be tried out. Apart from that, sir, this is the one thing I can think of right now, sir.
Without a cap on the expenditure, both on the political party and on the member, you think the solution will work? State funding?
Sir, I believe strict caps have to be there. On the individual level, they are there, sir, but on the political level, they are not there currently due to various reasons. Sir, I believe the caps that we have currently on the individual level have to be strictly enforced by Election Commission of India. We have flying squads that are there to oversee the expenditure and other such things. So, sir, I believe a strict enforcement of limits has to be there by the Election Commission of India by using technology as well as by efficient deployment of police under the personnel, so that the norms are adhered to.
Can foreign companies give donations now to political parties?
So, no, sir. Yes, sir, because Supreme Court has struck down not just electoral bonds but also various changes that have been made to RPA and Finance Act.
Subsidiary if a foreign company can give donations or not?
Sir, I don't think so, sir.
Okay. What about any audit regarding, at present any system is there regarding political donations, any audit is there on political parties?
Sir, Election Commission of India has nudged political parties to institute internal audit mechanisms, but any sort of external audit mechanism is
C&AG
not
audit
present.
is there or not?
Sir?
C&AG audit at present,
CAG.
C&AG, Control and Auditor General,
Yes, sir.
conducts audit now. That
Yes.
type of audit mechanism at present is there or not?
No, sir, it's not there.
Next, regarding, you are saying that green nudges. What is the green nudges?
So, green nudges was basically a concept taken from behavioral economics, which states that human beings can be nudged to take rational decisions if certain kind of incentives are provided to them. Thereby, sir, as part of Green Nudges program, we try to encourage environmentally conscious decision making among the college-going students by providing them various sorts of nudges.
What is your opinion regarding this solar this thing is there na, on roofs na, for household?
Yes.
It will be a viable scheme.
So it is a viable scheme, sir, because it is a decentralized way of producing renewable energy and people can utilize renewable energy and supply the excess to the grid. However, certain technicalities have to be worked out. For instance, there is net metering issue that is going on, the charge that has to be there, and also integration of such decentralized mechanisms into the overall grid is a technical challenge that has to be worked on, sir.
Okay, we'll treat this interview as closed.
Yes, sir.
Right now, you relax.